Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is March 15th, 2023. It's the Ides of March. I am Sharon Kimberly Cravens, here with Dr. LuAnn Morano. And tonight we are bringing you all kinds of delicious information about binders. Tonight we're going to cover BioToxin Binder, but we'll do a brief overview of all 5 of the binders and why they're so effective and special. So, let's see, you want to start with a disclaimer. So most importantly, when we're sharing this information in these videos, it's strictly for your educational purposes, and it's not intended, we're not intending to diagnose or treat any specific individual patient or issue. So with that being said, we'll show you what is inside of BioToxin Binder. And most everyone that's on Cellcore is quite familiar with this binder. It's the first one that's introduced in phase 1 of the comprehensive protocol, right? Yes. And its signature is, if you open it, it has this very strong, significant broccoli smell, which people like myself, not a fan of. Other people love it, but it's a beautiful product. So let's start with we'll cover the science behind all of the binders to begin with. So we have a lovely slide that goes over that. Okay. You want to start, Dr. Lu?
Yes. So we have a lot of different binders, as Sharon said, that we'll be covering. We're going to do BioToxin Binder tonight. So the science behind these binders is that what makes them different is they're amphoteric. I mean, they can give and receive electrons or protons, which most other binders just bind, and they don't have what these are charged with. They have available energy for chemical reactions, meaning the carbon, the hydrogen, and the oxygen that are in these binders, they're infused in them, help build the cells in the body, and they also give energy for the chemical reactions to take place. And so if you have different types of, we have copper and iron in our body, what these special binders have the ability to do is sometimes we can have copper in our body and it can be in a toxic form. But because of the energy availability, these can actually balance the minerals in our body, which is an amazing, just amazing in itself that they can do that. They contain the polyelectrolytes and the polyamides, and they help your digestive tract. So just taking these, even though you're not taking them to work on your digestive tract, they have great benefits for your digestive tract. They go systemic throughout your entire body. They increase the cellular energy. And so when you have different nutrients and vitamins and all these different things in our body, the binders help to absorb and utilize these. They repair tissue and the cellular processes, and they're selective binders, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. And they're true chelators, meaning they go in there and they pull stuff out, but they're different than a chelator, which most binders that you use for chelating, they're going to go in there and just grab onto something and pull. These go in there and they go in and they do more than that. They have the ability to go in and pull, but then because of all of these carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen and all the energies that these are loaded up with, they can, like I said at the beginning, they can give or receive electrons and protons. So they're not just pulling stuff out, they're adding in as well. So you're healing your cells and repairing your cells, not just pulling out different toxins that your body shouldn't have in it. And they also upregulate cellular respiration, which all of our cells need. You can see the list across the bottom there: BioToxin Binder, Carboxy, Virad Chem, HMET Binder, and CT Minerals. Although people don't really consider CT Minerals as a binder, it actually has humic acid in it. Because of it containing it, it does also bind. We use that for drainage because it helps to drain and open pathways. And it's also charged up with a lot of the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen.
Yeah, so scrolling down, we see this beautiful chart here, and the blue is obviously their recommended products. Each check means more effective. So the more checks, the more effective. And so for the issue in particular, Lyme creates a lot of ammonia, as do parasites, co-infections, and obviously a lot of protein in your diet. So what's really great for that is BioToxin Binder, and the others are good, but this is the best one that they're recommending. So this is a handy chart just to see what helps bind, like the bacteria byproducts. Again, biotoxin's great for that. And moving down, you can just read which binder is really effective for candida and fungal byproducts. It's carboxy. Environmental and industrial toxins, it's both biotoxin binder and carboxy. Same with mycotoxin, which is mold binding, parabens, and then phthalates. Parasite byproducts, again, biotoxin binder, and then pesticides and herbicides, including glyphosate, HMET binder. So we'll get into that on the third call. But specifically, sulfur metabolism, again, is biotoxin binder, and the heavy metals, HMET binder, that's heavy metals environmental toxin binder. And then the viruses, Virad Chem, hence the name. Volatile organic compounds as well, Virad Chem. So that just helps to visually see what is good for what. Do you want to scroll down further on this carbon versus charcoal comparison, LuAnn?
No,
Okay, we'll
we
just
don't
leave
have to.
that. Okay,
Let's get into the biotoxin binder.
yeah, okay. So our highlight for this evening is biotoxin binder. And I like visuals, so I wanted to just share what I think are two of the most interesting ingredients in this product, which are yucca root and broccoli sprout. So everybody knows what an alfalfa sprout. Here's a broccoli sprout. So it's obviously the ground version of it, dried and ground version. And you had an interesting point about the research on using broccoli sprout, right, LuAnn?
Yeah, so there's research on broccoli sprout supplementation during pregnancy that they've done studies showing how it prevents brain injury in newborn rats following placental insufficiency. So they just did some maternal supplementation, and they also were thinking, what can they use these findings for? So they can use them towards like prevention of things like cerebral palsy and disabilities that are associated with the placental insufficiency, just from this little powerful broccoli sprout.
Yeah, all the nutrients that are packed in here, it's like just so good for you. So that's pretty cool about the brain. The next thing, I was going down the rabbit hole on yucca versus yucca. So it's two separate things. And I had experience with this beautiful plant when I moved to Southern California in sixth grade. I had to go to this outdoor education thing, and I was looking at this plant going, what the heck is this? So this is what's in biotoxin binder. It's the yucca plant, which is just a stunning creature, versus the cassava, which is yucca, right? So that's just to get clear on that. And I had to visit this woman, Navajo grandma, to tell me that, because I was like, wait a minute. So again, we're dealing with yucca, not yucca, right? We all eat yucca. It's like a potato, right? So she's this adorable woman, but I just think it's such a stunning plant. You can eat the The flower actually does make its own little fruit thing, but I digress. So just a fun tidbit. Um, so as far as biotoxin,
I just want to add something there, and that's important because if you talk to some people, if you're pregnant and you're breastfeeding, they might say avoid cassava and tapioca, which is the yucca, right, from the root. And so they don't really have full studies on this stuff, but they just say, take a precaution, don't eat it. So people see it in here and they
yes,
get confused because of the
right.
two different, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like raise the alarm, right? Oh, this
Yeah,
isn't good for pregnant women, but it actually is in this form. It's safe.
the plant versus the root.
Yes, right. So pretty cool. Biotoxin binder's named, it's called that because that's exactly what it's doing. It is binding to toxins, especially effective with mold and mycotoxins, which are the bullies. That's the bully in the classroom is mold. It is really great for reducing and removing these mycotoxins out of the body. It is really effective for removing toxins that are created by parasites and by Lyme and other byproducts of these offenders, which we just saw on that list, such as ammonia. It's also really good for yeast and for fungus.
So it's also, when we talk about sulfur metabolism, what they do is they add molybdenum to it, which is
Molybdenum?
yeah, so what that is it's an element in our chart, in the elemental chart, and it helps people to process sulfur more efficiently and easily, because some people have trouble with this pathway.
Yeah, and so the question is, well, why would someone need support? Like, why does the sulfur pathway need support? Like, I had never personally heard of that. So if you don't have that support, then it could create more inflammation and sensitivities to nutrients that are in foods. People who are sensitive to glutathione or even broccoli sprout, right? They wanted to make sure that those people with those issues would not have a problem. So the mycotoxins in yeast also can deplete that pathway. It can wear it out. So we're supporting that with the biotoxin binder. It was really birthed for mold cases and for those who seem to be really reactive to everything, like the sensitive patient. So this binder is really well tolerated.
Yeah, because when people have the mold and the mycotoxins, and that sulfur pathway gets broken down, it's the things it's going to create a lot of inflammation, and a lot of stuff that they have are going to create more inflammation. And if that some of this stuff heals it, but how are they going to be able to ingest? So people say, oh, I can't have broccoli sprouts, or, well, when in this combination, they made it specifically to help those people, and it works great. And I know we keep pointing to the mycotoxins and the mold with this, because this is the first product that people start on when they're dealing with that. And later on, we move them into carboxy, which is BioToxin Binder's big brother, which we'll get into another time.
Yeah, it's his strong stepbrother. So biotoxin binder also helps to upregulate oxygen and to feed the microbiome. What other binder has that ability? Not sure what's out there on the market that can do that, truly. Out of Cellcore's 3 binders, this one has the most amount of the polysaccharides, which are what feed the microbiome. So that's uber important, especially when you're going through the protocols.
Yeah, and what also is great about not only biotoxin binder, but the HMET binder and the Vired Chem binder is that they have 3 size carbon chains. So traditional carbons like charcoal they have long chain binders. They're just long chain carbons. Cell cores, they're different because they have small, medium, and large. So the large binders, the large chain, those carbon chains, they go into our gut. And that's why when in a lot of countries, they use, in a lot of other countries that have a lot of parasite issues, they have charcoal up. They're burning charcoal. They're making it because they're putting it in water and drinking it because of the gut. So the charcoal has the long chain, but what we have that's special is we have the small chain and the medium chain carbon. So what they do is they can go systemically into the body, and they're so small that they're 10th to the -9th. So they can go in and cross the blood-brain barrier, and they can get into all the nooks and crannies. But they can bring energy, because remember, they're loaded up with energy. So these binders are able to go into all the nooks and crannies, go through the blood-brain barrier, get in to these places and bring energy in and pull the toxins out. That's why they have such a great success with the Cellcore's binders, and why they're so different than another reason why they're so different than typical binders.
Yeah, and it's literally going into your brain. And like the adage or the joke being like, you have worm in your brain. It's like, well, this is actually going in there and helping with that. So it just makes me feel good about it. And the energy, or the pH, there's a variety of levels of pH that are in the carbon chains, the different small, medium, large, that allow to attach and then remove toxins. So ultimately, in time, that would also remove infections. So it just takes a little bit of time to do that. The carbons that are in the biotoxin binder are unspent. So that means that they just have a lot of energy, like tons of energy, to not only provide cells what they need, but also to get in and to get out.
Yeah, and if you think about carbon, and think about what Sharon just said, unspent. So if you think about firewood, right? You take a piece of wood that's alive, that's carbon, and then you burn it, right? And you make charcoal. But you burnt the energy out of it. There's no more energy in that charcoal. So when people are using charcoal as a binder, it's spent. It doesn't have the ability to go in there and do what these binders do. So they're not just binding onto the toxins, they can restore, they can repair the tissue, because all the supportive ingredients that they have, they're able to protect and direct those ingredients. And also, as it's going through the stomach acid, it's protected, so it's not getting broken down. It's going further into the digestive tract.
Yeah, and so like having been overseas a lot and gotten whatever kind of issues in the belly, I've taken a lot of charcoal, and it's a totally different energy and frequency than even this binder. Like it just doesn't feel the same, not even close. And it's literally, charcoal is, like you said, just ash, right? It's just dead material without any activation in it. So it's going to have a different effect on your body. One of the great things about the carbon technology in these binders with the extracts of the humic and the fulvic acids is that it allows for energy to be made, for the cell to have reactions, for the reactions to occur in the cell rather than just like wiping things out. So in that, we're supporting the ATP process or production of ATP, and supporting the enzymatic processes as well. So then you can move forward with a process of detoxing, which is what people need to be doing, right? Also, then you can deal with some of the chronic infections and the stuff that's hanging out and haunting people. Like that's really bringing people down. So that's what's really cool about this binder is that it feeds and then it allows for progression and progress to occur.
Yeah, it brings in lots of energy, which you don't get from any other binders. So it's, when you're looking at BioToxin Binder or any of these binders, you have to remember it's not just a binder. There's so much more in these that they're bringing so much energy and healing to the cells that sometimes I feel like just calling them a binder is not enough because they do so much more than that.
It's true. They're a little magical. Let's call them something else. Magic bullets. But then that is connotation of something else. The main ingredients are the yucca, the broccoli sprout extract, and that actually helps support the NRF2 pathway. Yucca root extract has a great binding capacity with ammonia in the digestive tract. So it's a really great source of vitamin C as well. It is important because vitamin C gets depleted by parasites. It also helps with the antioxidant system. Molybdenum is to assist with the sulfur pathway, and then the extracts of the humic and the fulvic acid. The fulvic is the polysaccharides and the polyelectrolytes, which is the dibasic of fulvic acid. So the biotoxin binder as mold support for people who are dealing with that and mycotoxins is huge. It's a game changer. It's one of the best binder supports for parasite cleansing, Lyme disease, and the mycotoxins. Those with Lyme's have really great results with using this binder. So that is big because in this world, outside of here where we are with these wonderful products, the world gives you not sure what besides antibiotics. So what about dosing?
So the standard dosing are 2 twice a day. And for people who are sensitive, you can reduce that to 1 cap twice a day. And if you want to be more aggressive, you can take 4 caps twice a day. So you can take 8 a day if you want. If you're dealing with little kids and you're giving it to them, or if you're pregnant, you can cut that dosage down. And with a child, you can do depending on their age, you can do 1/8 to 1/4 of a cap twice a day. And also, if you're pregnant, you want to do a smaller amount. So maybe 1/4 twice a day, kind of depending on the person. There's been some doctors that we deal with in this have really increased their intake and have done 18 capsules a day. That's 9 twice a day. And I know people say, I'm taking so many pills, but this biotoxin binder is really well tolerated. So you're not going to have a lot of side effects. It's the most gentle binder that they make.
Yeah, and obviously, like that wouldn't be recommended that someone jump in to that kind of like dosing. That's intense. 18,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But obviously, everybody starts with the standard dosing and then go from there. Something that I know that you like to do, LuAnn, is you open the capsule. And
Yes.
what's the benefits of doing that?
So when you open the capsule, you're starting the process in your mouth, and it's going down your esophagus and before the digestive process even works. So if you take the capsule's going in and it's opening up down in the stomach. But if you can drink it, you can take it, you can open it, stir it in a cup, drink it, and you can even swish it around in your mouth, and it's going to start working and binding. And I've had some patients who have had some, dealing with different issues, and we might hit a hiccup, and we change just that, and they start putting the binder in their mouth and then just swallowing it, and they see a lot of different changes go on in regards to different health issues that they're having. so try it. I recommend that people try opening it and drinking it, and just making sure you stir it up good. And if you're going to do, like, if you're taking for a day, maybe drink 2 of them and take the other 2.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, if you're doing 2 capsules twice a day, how many should you open? At least one, if not both, right? If you can tolerate it. So
Yeah.
I haven't done that because I don't like broccoli, so I just swallow them. But I am missing the benefit, right? Because if you just swallow a capsule, it doesn't open till it hits the stomach, right? So you're missing that pathway. But I'm still doing okay. So what's with the covalent binding? Why is that special?
So the covalent bonding is a super strong bond. So it's the differences if in a covalent bond is if you like lock arms with your friend, right? That's a really strong bond. It's really strong, like a chain, right? Versus like a handshake. It's easier to pull away, or like a bond like this. So in chemistry, we have different types of binding that takes place. So in the covalent bonds, when it binds to the toxin, it holds on to that toxin really strong, and it brings it all the way through, no matter where it, if it's pulling it out of your brain, if it's pulling it out of your, lymph node, wherever it is, it's going to pull it all the way out and out through the whole digestive tract. Because it's strong, it's a strong bond, and the half-life of this is 12 to 18 hours, so it works significantly for a nice period of time in the body. Now, you also want to keep it away from the para 1, which is the mimosa pudica, because we had a class on the mimosa pudica, and it's very sticky, and we want to keep it out. We want to it's not that it's gonna really affect it and it's not gonna work. It'll still work. It's just not gonna work as effectively, because it'll start binding to some of it and pulling it out of the body, because it has such a strong covalent bond. So that's why we say keep your paras and your binders separate from each other. Give it at least an hour, or even if you have 2 hours, that's even better.
Yeah, because that mimosa is gonna grab onto all kinds of stuff. So it's the sticky bit. So unlike other traditional old binders, there isn't a time limit to how long you can stay on BioToxin Binder, which is fantastic. The important thing to understand is it is not stripping your body of the things that it needs, unlike other binders. So it's totally different. It's binding onto toxins in a selective fashion. So it's a great product to be on short term or long term. It won't be depleting, which is terrific. So we have some testimonials from Drs. Todd and Dr. J. And do you want to do the first one?
Yes. So Dr. Todd had a couple, and they were dealing with he was totally overwhelmed. He had insomnia. He was super stressed, had high anxiety, and he couldn't tolerate a lot of things, food, taking pills, all different things. And so after talking with him, they figured out, we think you have mold in your house. So they tested him, and he had mold. And what they did was they high dosed him with the BioToxin Binder for a month. And, gradually, not just like, here, take 18 pills, but they high dosed him. His anxiety went away. It was him and his wife. They were both having these symptoms. And so they overwhelmed, vanished. They were like, okay, what is that all about? And so their stress levels became manageable. So now you can deal with, okay, so now that you calm the body down and you get to a point where these people can actually tolerate something, have a conversation, right? Now you can go on and deal with what you have to do to help these people, but just that month of high dosing the BioToxin Binder calmed them down enough, took out the overwhelm and the anxiety, so they can tolerate life, because they were off the chart. So you want to talk about the little third grader? This is a great.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that speaks to the emotional component that is a part of is a part of cleansing and detoxifying, and not realizing that when you're loaded like that, that it would affect you emotionally and that it would make you feel so, all those feelings you mentioned. It's just incredible that this could help remove that. It's just so important. So Dr. Todd had a parent of a third grader contact him that ran out of biotoxin binder, and this person was just desperate because they didn't have it, and it was so important to their child because this child had up to 25 seizures a day. And after being on biotoxin binder for 30 days, he had none. None. For a child, an 8 year old, that's just, I can't even imagine. So they reached out to him and were desperate to find more biotoxin binder, and they had some of their practitioners support them and find some and sent it to them because this child had been misdiagnosed. He had, or she had, Lyme, but they didn't know it. So this child had missed first, second, and half of third grade from the misdiagnosis, and he could go to school after getting on the biotoxin binder. And the family, the parents spent upwards of $50,000 in a year on all kinds of doctors and products, and this one bottle, this one binder changed their lives. So that's just remarkable, really. It's so compelling.
Yeah, so at that time, Cellcore, the company where we get this from, they ran out of biotoxin binder. That's why the woman was like, you have to, what am I going to do? My practitioner can't get it for me. What can I do? So they reached out to other practitioners and they were able to get the biotoxin binder for this woman. And because, you know, after going through that with her child, she was like, I want to keep healing him. So that was you know, that's another great thing about the company, is that you can there's a lot of intercommunication, and there's a lot of help between practitioners for different cases for people.
Yeah, they're not just selling products. It's so much, there's so much heart, and they care so much. So that's just a good example of that. But this is, biotoxin binder is just a go-to product because it dramatically reduces the negative things that occur in the body. So that's Lyme, that's ammonia caused by Babesia and Bartonella, and the mycotoxins. Like, you don't have to figure out what you have. You don't have to figure out what kind of mycotoxins you have. You don't have to drill down on that information. Is like the easy button to help reduce them. So
Yeah. And, you know, not only those, but, you know, like we said earlier, the parabens, the parasite byproducts, because as the parasites are rummaging through your body, they're excreting so many toxic byproducts that the biotoxin binder is really good to binding to. And a lot of people, they don't realize, like, well, why is my body not functioning right? Or why are my cells not functioning? I mean, I don't think the average person will ask themselves that particular question. It's more like, why do I not feel well? Why do I not have energy? Or why is my mood fluctuating? Whatever. But as these parasites secrete these toxic byproducts, it throws off the whole system. So the biotoxin binder, you know, it's also good for removing those byproducts. And plastics, so many plastics that are in our food, that, you know, our food comes wrapped in plastic a lot of times. It's all the chemicals that we are exposed to that we put on our body. There's like, if you can go through and see how many times that you're exposed to plastics during the day, I can't remember. There was somebody reached the number and it was astronomical of how much exposure we actually have to that. And the biotoxin binder binds to that. So it's so good to have this on the daily, because as we know, all these things, what do they do from, if kids are exposed to all these plastics, right? It messes up their hormones. And then as adults, we have all these hormonal issues, right?
Yeah, endocrine disruption 20.
Endocrine disruption, yeah.
We used to not have plastic. Can we just go back to not having it? Can we just outlaw it? Like everything used to be glass, the milk bottles, the containers. Was it Tupperware that like exploded plastic in the world in the 60s or something? 50s? I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah.
So you really shouldn't underestimate biotoxin binder. It is so powerful. It is well tolerated. Um, it's just, it's really phenomenal. So oil, yes, Carly, oil. I know, petroleum. Tell me about it. So that is the long and short of this amazing binder. This little magical, what are we going to call it? So if anybody has any questions about biotoxin binder, fire away. Comments, questions? Ba, 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 ba. Our next call is going to be on March 29th. And we're going to be going over Virad Chem binder. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Cool.
Well, and nobody has any questions?
We have a full moon coming up in April. We just had a full moon. That was fun. Looks like there's going to be some high dosing in my future. Karen, yes. Well, and like every month with the full moon, there's our friend biotoxin binder.
Yeah, hopefully you know a little bit more about why we use biotoxin binder during the full moon, because it is such a good all-around binder, and how well it works for the parasites and the energy it delivers. And everybody can take it. The other binders we have to work our way up to. That's why we introduce them slowly. But the biotoxin binder, I also have a lot of the kids in my practice. They'll come in and they'll have this or that going on, and the parents will start giving them low dosage of it, and the changes that are made are just like so many unexpected things that change when they start giving them the binder, the biotoxin binder. But again, even though they're trying to feed them healthy and all the right things, they're exposed to so many toxins in the environment. So you start just giving them the binder, and it just helps to pull, and their toxic load is reduced. So their bodies can be stronger, work better.
Yeah, what she's saying, any allergies to protein in milk?
What do you mean, Carly?
Like
Allergies to protein in milk. What's the question?
would it assist with that?
My grandson, he is allergic to milk, but it's specifically the protein. That's what their doctor said it was.
Right. How old is he?
7.
Okay. So that's what a lot of times they'll say that, oh, it's the protein that's in the milk. But what we learn is that allergies, having an allergic response to food or something in the air, right? It's the body's not functioning properly, and it can't handle that specific overload, right?
Right.
And
Okay.
everyone might have a different thing that they respond to. So to fix something like that, right, you have to go in and you would see, well, what toxins are in his body? You don't specifically have to ask, but you would go through and say, if his parasitic load is high, it's going to throw off his immune response, right? Because remember the Th1 and Th2 immune response, right? There's that fine balance. As those parasites start increasing, then what happens is that Th1 and Th2 response start changing. We start seeing more more reactions to with IgE. That's more like a sudden reaction to something. And so if you go through and you start cleaning out his system, then we see the allergies start changing, because now the body's not under that. It's just that little bit more stress, right? Just like
Right.
you can go and get blood work done, right? And I think we've discussed this. You can go and get blood work done and you can say, oh, look, all my liver looks great. All my numbers are great. And then the body can have one little stress, and that can be enough to alter the system, and now something elevates, right? So the body's always changing, and it could be just that one little stress that changes not just the reaction he's having to it, but what's behind the reaction. What else is happening in his body, right? He's just having a response to that particular protein. But if you look further into cleaning his system out, yes, a biotoxin binder would be something that would be good for him to start taking, to help to start helping his digestive system, right? It's charged with the carbon, the hydrogen, and oxygen, and it's going to support his digestive system. And then gently pull some of the toxins out.
Does that help? Does that answer your question? I mean, it sounds like it would be really beneficial because it's gentle. But as far as I'm just curious, like dosing for a situation like this, what would you recommend?
Starting off with 1/8 of a capsule twice a day, and then working him up to 1/4 of a capsule twice a day. Now, also, he's 7, but depending on his size, some kids are bigger than others. So I've had some kids that are pretty big kids that are 7, and they go up and they take 1/2 a capsule. And I have some kids that are taking a full capsule twice a day, which is half of the adult recommended, but again, gradually working him up.
Okay, great. You had just mentioned earlier about seeing some changes in the children in your practice. Can you just throw out a few examples of what you've seen? Because I'm curious.
Yeah, with some of the little guys, they're generally calmer because they have less irritants in their body. I think that's why, is because there's less things that are stirring them up internally. So the parents are like, I don't know, but they're more calmer. They don't get so agitated. Because some of the little guys, they can't really tell you what's going on. So the parents just see them agitated all the time. So that could just be, parasites that they have that are agitating them, or toxins that are agitating their systems. And so as you start pulling some of this stuff out gently, and who knows, what's gotten through into their brain, right? They could have a little bit of inflammation. They can have a little bit of Lyme. They can have been subjected to mold. So all different things creating all different symptoms in these little guys. Chronic runny nose, drooling, kids that have been drooling a lot, taking the BioToxin Binder and the Lymphactive and seeing changes because their drainage pathways are opening, they're not so backed up. So even with like some of the kids who come in and they have like issues with, like Carly was saying, different digestive disorders, and giving them a little bit of that BioToxin Binder, just helping to soothe their gut a little bit. It's a nice gentle way to just pacify them, and then slowly introduce a couple of other products as you start learning what to do with them.
Yeah, and just to anecdotally, one of my clients down here, her daughter's been traveling all over the world, and we sent her off with some good stuff, and she ran out. And as soon as she ran out of BioToxin Binder, she's got some stomach distress. I'm like, oh no. So
Yeah, nothing like getting a call from or a message from across the world going, I'm in Indonesia and I ran out of biotoxin binder and I'm not feeling so well. What can I do? Like, oh my goodness, how can we get you something quick?
Right? But I mean, like, you never know. Someone there might, some natural doctor might have it. Who knows? I think
Yeah,
she's,
but it was really great though, because she was in some places that were very, very sketchy. And as she was traveling to all these different places, she kept taking her binders, taking her para 1, para 2, she had her para 3, and she was fine. And the other thing is she had a friend with her, and her
yes.
friend kept getting sick.
Yep.
And so her friend started taking the products, and then her friend was like, what is this stuff? Until they ran out.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, the proof's on the feeling and how it treats you. And it's pretty compelling. So, all right. Well, it is probably time, unless anybody has any questions at all. The spring equinox is coming, I think it's the 20th, the new moon in a few days. So we always focus on the full moon, but it's nice to also call in what you want to fill the void with the new moon. What would you like to have more of in your life, or what do you want to see happening? What do you want to create? So I like to offer that in this space as well. But if that's it, then I can just sign off. It's been lovely to see all of you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank